So we're into part 2 now, guys. Carrying on from where we left off. We fold in the 9-3. I'm looking to attack the big blind with the a6 offsuit, but we won't be 3-betting or calling with this one. Offsuit aces are nice hands to attack with, but they play very, very badly post flop out of position. Against a 4x, we're just going to be folding. I wouldn't 3-bet this very often against a UTG. Mostly call or fold, and against a 4x, there's not much we can do. If your opponents are opening smaller, you get to defend wider. But generally, you don't want to be too wide. But for example, if our UTG opens, say 4x, 3x, your range gets a lot narrower in the blinds compared to if they say open 2, 2.2. Queen 10 again, a little bit loose. I don't know anyone in the big blind. There's only a recreational over here that I can see that I haven't marked. So I think Queen Jack off is going to be our worst open under the gun, as in theory as well. Would open like Queen Jack would open half the time, give or take. Again, we can be doing a decent amount of 4-betting against some of the blind ranges, but I think we're only going to be playing folds and calls at this level because we're looking just to try and play post flop rather than get stacks in. You know, lots and lots of money in the pre-flop is not great in these levels. Generally, people are just going to have ace king and kings, aces, etc. Not going to attack the Queen 7. Ace 4 offsuit's not quite good enough to call, but it can absolutely be a 3-bet. I think I am going to. I mean, I rolled high, but generally we're going to be upping the A aggression overall. I'll be picking a size between sort of 11 and 14 big blinds as a squeeze here. Generally, it's maybe sort of 13 and a half would be better. But so we knock out the cold caller, but not the initial raiser. So the raiser might have some stronger hands still. Interesting spot where we flop top pair and we have a flush draw. We don't generate that much value from a lot of hands. I'm not going to bet range. I'm just going to only play checks, I think, with a hand in this kind of class where we're not really value betting, but we do beat a decent amount of hands. Induce some bluffs from our opponent and play a check call. Versus a check, we could easily have the best hand here. It's a little bit thin to go for value in general, so I'm going to check again. Now our opponent might blast a hand like King Queen, King 10. I think when our opponent checks back twice, I think villain would have bet an ace by this point. We're blocking flushes, so I'm going to target a hand like pocket queens, maybe King Jack suited. We only lose to like Ace Jack plus, so I'm just going to exploitatively bet about quarter pot and try and look to get called by like King Jack, pocket 10s with a spade. Again, extremely exploitative here because we're really only representing, if we're betting the river after going check check, we're really kind of representing a very narrow range, very polarized range. So we would really be checking or going for a large size, I think. I don't think we would be going check check block. But at these levels, it's fine. We're not going to be getting bins, so we're just looking to get the value wherever we can with lots of small sizings. We're not going to be playing any calls in the small blind versus the button because of the rake structure. Also, you know, we just want to get some value. I would normally go like 12 here, but I'm going to exploitatively just go down size because I want to keep the button's range a bit wider. If they're going to call, you know, with things like ace jack, ace 10, whatever, I want to keep those in and get value from them rather than force them to be really polarized with what they continue with. Again, in the cutoff, the ace-6 isn't really an open. It would be something like ace-5 or ace-7 at mixed frequency. This we're just going to use as an open at this level. I'm just going to be attacking these blinds again and again and again from the button and the cutoff really, really heavily with these ace-X. Don't even need to worry about being suited. We're just going to blast. Take a lot of pots down pre and post as well. So as we have one of the weakest ace-X, our range would be doing a decent amount of checking and large betting as well, some smaller betting. I think this class is just going to be a pure check at this level. We can absolutely start building a pot versus recreational, so we're going to call too wide, but we don't know that. Versus a turn snap check, we obviously have the best hand. I don't think we're getting trapped at any point, so we're just going to pick a 2/3 sizing or so, try and target a hand like a 10. Generally, guys, when these guys are checking, they're really weak and capped. So you can absolutely get people off hands, and you can absolutely get value as well from hands that you shouldn't really. Again, ace-6 offsuit against the cutoff it's not really good enough to just defend. So I would either be 3-betting or folding. I'm always going to take the aggressive option at this stake. Don't mind exploitatively going larger with our bluffs compared to value as well. We're not going to be exploited at this level, so we can really push the fold equity, which is nice. One thing you'll find is if you find these aggressive lines pre, you'll get into some tough spots post-flop. However, it's really good to up that red line. Remember, lots and lots and lots of bluffs pre. We've got a short stack in the small blind, so I need to be a little bit careful here not to go too large so that this guy might shove. So this is a really awkward spot. I think I'm still going to fold. It sounds a bit silly because we get a really good price to call here, but this guy's so short that the SPR is going to be about 1.5, and we're going to have such a dominated hand. We don't want a queen or a jack-eye board technically. We might just be defeated already, so I'm actually just going to fold. We'll see what the flop was though. So we would have flopped second pair, but we would have already begun drowning, whereas if we're behind, we're even further behind now, and we don't really know where we're at. So it's not a good enough hand to just call, even to a min raise. I think if we were heads up, I might have considered it because there's only one opponent, but probably still leaning towards a fold. Don't want to put too much sort of dead money in there and start drowning. I'm going to fold the 9-10 suited because this guy's got 11 bigs. If I raise any jams, I have to call, and we're not doing too well. We're doing okay, but not that great. So it's not a hand I want to be raising against a micro stack. Again, with all these short stacks and recreationals, we need to be targeting, making sure we're colouring them up. If you get any regulars, tight regulars, aggressive regulars, mark them up. Put notes on people if you find them. It's really important. Generally, if you've got colour codes, even more so than notes, you can just quickly glance at people and say, right, I think he's a recreational weaker player. I know that my strategy against recreationals is going to be this. If I've got more of a whaley opponent, I know my strategy will deviate again. If I've got more of a Again, you're not going to have crazy regs, but you might have some slightly better aggressive regs on the tables, here and there. You might mark them as well and just say, look, this guy might be capable of bluffing, a few more hands in a few more spots. So we might be slightly wider than normal. Going to open this time with the recreational in the blind with the threes. Again, the small pocket pairs are naturally difficult to play post-flop as well, but they tend to play either really passively or really aggressively. It's quite fun. Because you're only really improving, obviously, if you hit a set. So, they make decent bluffs now and again. Jack-6 suited against a 2x open will be defending this one. You could sometimes 3-bet as well. I think, again, against the earlier positions, I'm less inclined to 3-bet them wide, just because they're so strong naturally in these levels. We can call here because we're getting a good price with a suited hand, but again, the Jack-X is going to be dominated by both ranges, but we're getting such a good price with the suited hand. And we're going to be checking the board. We're not going to be leading this one. If this guy sizes up large, we might exploitatively fold. Versus a small size, we're going to be continuing. depending on what this guy does. We're not going to be overcalling if this guy raises. If he goes bet call, we'll be obviously calling. Probably not a good chance of winning the pot though, considering how wet this texture is, but we'll see. This guy wants to tank and tank and tank and tank. And we're going to be calling. Just give it a few seconds. We're not looking for timing tells, but at least don't give anything away. Brick 10. So again, if villain, just exploitatively, if villain sizes up really large, I might just again exploitatively fold because their ranges are so strong with their draws and with their made hands. Versus a half pot size, I will continue, I think, because we still beat enough hands for that price. And then we'll probably be overfolding rivers with one of our weakest top pairs. You need to be really careful what your turn and river calls look like at these levels. We're getting a ridiculous price, but I'm really conscious of whether we have the best hand here or not. We don't really know what we're dodging either, but we're getting just enough price to continue to the river. Again, if these people are so tight and they're raising big, you might just consider folding directly, but we're going to call here and see what the river brings. So we block 5-6, but I don't think 5-6 really is too relevant at this level. Just going to be checking and hoping to get to showdown. I think if our opponent bets 3 times, we're just going to be folding this hand. I think we're probably going to be beat. At 2-0, we're not looking to make any kind of hero calls. If someone's going to be bluffing, it might be this guy, because both of us have checked the river, but we'll see. There you go. Talking about those tight ranges, guys. So this guy's betting turn. Obviously, I mean, there's loads of hands that we beat, obviously, but just kind of, you know, this guy's obviously a recreational with the queen 9 off cooldown, but guy's only betting the turn. He's actually checking the river. I mean, he may be inducing, but I don't think he is. I think he's literally just got enough value and gave up. Well, not gave up, but looking just to call if someone wanted to bluff. But I'd be very careful, like I said again, with people's ranges that are betting multi-way on flops, turns, and rivers. So do just keep an eye out for those. We need to be really careful not to be calling down too wide. The ace-8's good enough for an open. Taking down lots of blinds at this level, which is nice. Ace-queen suited again. Easy open. And again, versus 3-bet, this hand will mix some 4-betting and calling. At this level, I'm just going to be looking to call. This guy actually we actually have some sample. This guy does tend to 3-bet quite wide, and he's got a bit more of more like a reggy sort of stat, and he's also got quite a high fold to 3-bet. It's probably just like a tight regular. I think we're going to be just calling. Someone with a 3-bet stat this large, over 100 sample, I might mix this hand in as with some more check raises as well as check calls, depending on size, of course. But there we go. So against this large size, this guy's c-betting 100%, so and 3-betting wide. I think I might just mix this in as a raise this time and see where we go. We've got nice back doors. We've got some removal. Snap called, obviously, because our bluffs never work at this level. When the board pairs, it's bad for us because it blocks the amount of combos of boats we have, like if we had 7s, 8-7, etc. And also, we don't have a diamond. So a villain's bet calling range on the flop is going to consist of a lot of pairs and overs. We block club continue, so it's mostly going to be diamond combos. So I think we're just done with this hand now, unfortunately. Really bad sizing technically from opponent because his flushes don't want to blast these turns because with the board pair, because we get to play perfectly here with our check traps. We'll be checking some flushes. We'll be checking all our boats on the turns a decent amount of the time as well. So really terrible size from villain. Should be doing a decent amount of checking and smaller betting, like block betting sizes, trying to get called by like 1 pair type hands, etc. rather than blasting and forcing us to have all our best hands. But exploitatively, that's also really good when you're to bet and then check turns when you've got really good hands, because our opponents are just gonna, you know, blow up versus it, which is also really nice. King 4, we're just going to be pitching. Jack A, very, very low down, but we could exploitatively open it a bit more at these levels if it folded to us. And we're not going to be playing any loose calls to 3-bet or 4-bets at this level. We're going to be folding this one. If I was going to defend with no information, it would be more like ace-10 suited plus, ace-jack suited, etc. And, well, more like ace-jack, ace-queen suited plus, and then doing some 4-betting with ace-10. But again, I'm not going to be 4-betting bluffing at this level. I'm just going to be looking to fold or call with a relatively strong range and then supplement that with lots of bluffs pre-flop as well. Taking lots of blinds and raises down pre-flop. It's not really the right level to be considering 4-bet bluffing, unfortunately. Not until you get to like 50, 100, where people are 3-betting far too wide and then folding to lots of 4-bets, which isn't a thing here. I mean, it could be, but it's not really a main consideration at this level. Not really, anyway. I'm not going to be limping. I'm just going to be raising. Go 3.5. Could go 4. It's fine. So you do tend to find that villains do limp calls some offsuit broadways, ace-10, ace-jack, king-queen, 9, jack-9, some ace-x. So I don't mind checking in a hand that doesn't really want to get raised and doesn't want to build a pot too often. So I don't mind checking, allowing our opponent to bluff at this or bet worse. We're just going to have an easy call. Decent-ish card because we now beat a hand like King 10 and we now have equity versus like things like a flop straight, for example. So we're going to be checking the turn. Not going to be leading. Not thrilled with the fact that our opponent's betting big, but remember we played trip aces King 10, so we're only losing to ace 10 plus unless he has a straight. So and he limped, so we're going to be calling, hoping he's betting worse or bluffing, and checking river, and we will be calling the river, but we're not too thrilled. If he bets, just an easy call. There we go. We got a quite an interesting bluff from our villain. We're absolutely not thrilled about calling, by the way. I'm not fist bumping whatsoever, and if I was at a different stake, I would very much consider folding, because I don't think our villains find enough, especially recreationals, find triple barrel overbet bluffs. So I think it's interesting though. Like our villain was very passive pre-flop. And then the flop wanted to turn his hand into a bluff, whether he meant to or not, and then just kept going. Assuming we had like a hand like almost that we had, or a king, I don't really know. But again, something to note is this guy's passive pre-flop, but then when check 2 can absolutely over bluff, which is really good. Good note to take. Against a small blind defend, they're generally going to be a little bit tighter, even at the low levels. We want spades or a backdoor heart. A heart or backdoor spades at least. We could exploitatively just c-bet, which I don't mind. I'm going to take an exploitatively polarized size because we're just looking to try and take it down. We'll have some good hands, some very bad hands. We do have some removal like queen 10, king queen. So it's not terrible, but we need to be a bit careful that we're not just blasting everything. But generally we would look to have some backdoor equity as well as just, blockers to the direct calling range like a 10 or a queen or a king, sorry. Again, we're getting really good price. This is a very bad hand to call. We're just dominated from multiple opponents, even if flush boards come out. We'll see what the flop was. That would have been an interesting board, but again, we don't really want to start drowning. For some reason, it's not letting us play a new hand. It wants us to see the hand, which is really weird. So I guess we have to see it. It's a bit of a weird bug. This guy bets one big blind. No idea what's going on. We actually managed to make a straight in this hand. What on earth is going on here? Wow, we would have made probably some decent money then. That's quite funny. Couldn't tell you what's going on in that. A7 we can open. Looking to 3-bet these types of hands like suited ace-x and king-x against some middling range opens as well. We can mix between betting and checking this flop texture. I would probably size up a little bit on this board. We get to do some blocking, but mainly sizing up a bit versus the big blind. We're going to check this time. We've got some decent backdoors, and we can absolutely have the best hand. Pick up a flush draw, which is also nice. Now we can mix between checking and betting relatively big. I'm going to check again. And then we river the wobbly nuts, which means we made the nut flush, but there is a paired board. Now we're looking to target a 3, pocket 4s, something like that. Just going to size up. He's either got a hand that can call or he doesn't. Exploitatively, I could go small, I guess. You know what? No, I'm going to exploitatively go small. Just going to see if we can either induce a bluff or maybe get a call from, like, you know, king high, pocket 4s. Sad though, because we get no value, but I think Villain would have led if he had a hand worthy of calling a bigger bet. So this may not have called if we'd gone large. Very exploitative, but it is what it is. We can call a 3-bet. We'll call this time. Nut flush draw. Could potentially look towards leading the low boards as well. Gonna just play and flow, I think, at this level. Not going to be doing anything particularly fancy. Really bad size from Villain. Villain on monotone boards, especially the lower boards, Villain should be looking to bet really small on these textures because he's not got enough cards that want to bet really, really big and polarized on this board, especially when the big blind here just has so many flushes, like ridiculous amounts of flushes. We can call or we can raise. I think against a large size, I'm incentivized more to call. So I'm going to call. Interesting turn. Again, we've got the wobbly nuts because there's a couple of straight flushes out there. Could do a little bit of leading, but genuinely checking to protect a lot of hands that are going to need protection on this river. I think I'm just going to be going large, or I don't know whether I want to check to induce, check to get a check raise from like a decent heart, or just bet large myself. I think I'm just going to bet large and just stop him checking back other hands. You know, like a 6, for example. He may even think I'm bluffing because there's a straight on the board. Be pretty sick if we get raised, but we'll see. I think if he shoved, I would fold. If he makes a raise, I would call. Because I think at this level, they might raise a king of hearts all the time. I would hope so, but you never know. When this guy tanks for ages, I was worried that he might actually jam and just have a straight flush. But we're lucky enough to just take it down. Well, I would have liked to call from a decent amount of other hands, but it is what it is. Interesting spot here. So cutoff versus button. Against button flats at a position here, we're generally going to be playing a lot of checks with a whole range. When you're exploitatively bluffing, I would just go ahead and bet because your opponents are going to, at this level, they're just going to fold a lot. So you're better off just betting and taking it down rather than getting float betted, bluffed, basically. When our villains check back, I'm just going to assume that we have the best hand a lot of the time. We can block and get some value from some small and medium pairs below us, and we can get some protection as well, or we can go ahead and check. I don't mind either. I'm going to check this time. I would think in theory we do a decent amount of both because our opponent's supposed to be checking back a decent amount of ace-x and we'll have some 8x as well. Now we absolutely need to be betting. We need to be targeting hands like king, queen, pocket 4s. So again, we're just going to block and try and get called. Very simple. If we get raised, we're going to fold. We're not going to be looking to call. I would assume he's only going to raise something like pocket 6s or a slow played, very strong hand. Again, at these levels, I'm not looking to call people almost ever. Pocket 10s. In the small blind versus all positions except the button, we can actually find some calls, just because our opponent's ranges are quite a bit stronger in those positions. That's theory based. In these positions, this would mix 4-bet and fold, I believe. At this level, again, if we're 4-betting, it's going to be a bit of a mergy bluff. I'm not looking to 4-bet these boys at this level, so we're going to be folding. Not going to be no cold calls, guys. No cold calls, especially out of position. If I was going to be doing something exploitative, I might cold call a hand like aces if it's going to induce the razor to jam. And then we might be able to get a 3-way coup all in pre or have them crush post flop. Again, we're not going to be defending the jack-six against a 3.5x open in a call. This would either be a squeeze or a fold. I might just exploitatively fold because this is a very large open. I'm going to assume, I don't know if it's a thing, but that his range is stronger because he opens larger. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to use it as an assumption. He might just be opening larger because we have a larger stack, which is what he's supposed to be doing. But again, it's 2-L, so probably not. Excuse me. A few more hands here, guys. Couple more minutes. Opening the king 9 suited. Again, we'll be pure folding to 3-bet. We're not looking to do anything too spicy. Very bad board for in position. We will connect to this and we will have some bets. King 9 suited is a bit of a mix. We'll be doing a lot of checking back. On a high roll, I will be betting. If we're choosing a bet, we will be taking a large sizing because we're quite polarized here, where the big blind is going to connect very heavily to this board. But we have a hand that's kind of it will do a decent amount of checking, but also with losing to his hands like king 10, king jack, king queen, ace x, that can just fold if we were betting. So this would do a decent amount of both. Picking up a flush draw and the board pairing is very good for us. He will have some more 3x. However, our over pairs are doing well here. We're going to have some flush draws like this. We might blast him off the hand like ace 10 of clubs, for example. We can bet big or check, and on a high roll, we're going to bet big again. Exploitatively, if he does call again, locking spades, I'm probably just going to give up if he calls a turn. Looking to try and fold out some floats now. Maybe a weak 5, like 5-9 or something, you know, if he has a hand like that. Ace 2 suited, not pure open, I believe, but we will be pure opening it at this level. I think it's something like 50% UTG. If we get shoved on, which is funny. Give this guy some toilet paper and then we'll fold. King in suited, we will be 3-betting sometimes and calling sometimes versus small blind, favoring both, actually mixing. Against the button, again, also mixing. Maybe a little bit more aggressive versus the small blind. Ace 5 we're looking to open on the bottom. Won't be 3-betting. Ooh, nearly folded there. I've lost my hotkey there. It's a bit annoying. There you go. Let's see if we can turn it back on. So we've got an interesting spot if this guy folds around to us. So we've got the worst suited ace x, which we can absolutely defend or absolutely consider folding. If you've got a very, very tight early position opener, these hands get very dicey as whether they're defended or not. I think we'll defend this as we're a little bit deeper and we're going to play for the video, but generally we need to be very, very careful in general. So this one will be interesting as well because we've got a pair. However, this ace is bad because it's blocking loads of folds if I was to turn it into a bluff, because you can obviously check raise bottom pair as a bluff sometimes, which is also a nice play. Versus a turn queen, very bad because the opponent's going to have a lot of hands like ace queen, king queen that are going to check back the flop, especially at these levels. If an opponent decides to check back the flop and bet the turn, we'll probably just fold. I'm going to give him credit. Also a thing as well, when your opponents are especially recreationals at the lower levels like this, when they're potting and overbetting like this, for example, this pot size bet, they're generally very strong. I'm not saying they can't have a hand like ace 10 of clubs, for example, but we're not even doing that well against that. So And they're going to maybe bluff rivers, and you know we might just be easily behind as well. Be very careful with what you're calling and how much you're calling against these guys, because they're very strong, very very strong. Again, remember the money's not coming from marginal cooldowns against recreational nitty players or tight regs. It's just bluffing them and cold decking them, or you know, deceptive traps and underplays. It's not coming from marginal hero calls and bluff catches, because there's not enough of them. So this will be the last hand, guys, and then we'll be done. So king 8 off is, again, it is in there, but it's again a bit cuspy. It's a bit of a wide open, but we're just going to use it as an open at this level and fold into a 3-bet. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk soon.